Welcome everyone, Costin here with a discussion about Dragon Age the Veilguard, specifically to talk about the previous decisions from Dragon Age Inquisition that do matter over here, what you can choose in terms of those decisions, and how Bioware and Electronic Arts have more or less decided to flat out ignore many of the important decisions we had made, not just in Inquisition, but also in the series as a whole. One of the things to be said about Dragon Age is that if you look at Dragon Age Origins to Dragon Age 2, then Dragon Age 2, Dragon Age Inquisition, you see a bunch of decisions that were carried over, even small stuff. Like Inquisition had a bunch of stuff you could customize. Not all of it really mattered all that much, but it was really something that helped make each experience unique. Now, with the character creator, let's talk about this. You obviously have a bunch of decisions you can make over here. I'd probably recommend playing a character with long hair in this game because of how it works visually. But what I like here, and having played just a bit of the game, like when I saw this character creation screen and specifically what decisions mattered and didn't matter, I was pretty pissed. I still am pretty pissed. But then I played a bit through it and I'm like, I can kind of see why, certain people may like this game. Anyway, oh yes, the pronoun decision. So anyway, you can customize a character quite a bit over here. One of the things that I do have a bit of an issue here, like yes, you do have these various, choices and all that, but the problem is there's no like scene where you can like just see how your character would actually look in action. And that is actually something of a problem from my perspective. Yes, you can choose your voice actor, for instance. You can choose the voice actor. So if we look over here, where was the voice even of makeup, tattoo, scar, paint, cheek, leaf customization? Okay, no, it's later, I believe it is. Anyway, so you get to pick your class over here. You get aspirational armor, starting outfit, and casual wear. I believe the aspirational armor is obviously dependent on your class, but it's also dependent on the faction you're probably going to pursue. So with regards to faction, you do have a starting one which changes your surname. So you have Thorn, you have the one of the things I would probably inform my decision on here, if you're interested in anything visually, is maybe the casual wear, because you're probably starting with it, but I'm going to go with the Antivan Crows. The reason I would probably go with that is simply due to the fact that you get that extra potion. But let's talk about playstyle. So okay, Assassin, Extraordinary, these are your difficulty settings. You can customize these things if you want. Personally, I'm just going to, play on Nightmare, and see how that is. If I find it too ridiculous in some ways, I'll just start again. So yeah, name. You can change your voice over here, but again, the problem is
time to get to work.
You don't really see it's very basic here, and you don't really see how your character will in a fight or anything like that. I believe you can change your how you look later on. But anyway, and you do have outfit previews like casual wear, all that. A nice cape, wear Batman. That's the Antivan Crows. Okay, now, here's the thing. You can't, it doesn't import your Inquisitor look, for the record. And there are some things I do dislike about, you pick a man, for instance, all that. With regards to the Qunari in particular, you look at the horns situation. I don't believe you can turn off the horns for the Qunari, so you could in Inquisition, and that's how I made my Inquisitor. Because I never liked the whole horned Qunari bullshit. I'm a big fan of Sten and Origins. I never liked that redesign. The Qunari look like crap in Dragon Age 2. The whole design ever since then. I'm not saying they look better here, they don't. So, I'm just not a fan of this whole thing. Maybe I just associate the Qunari too much with Sten. They retconned it, oh, it's special and that. I think sometimes you just gotta, go with it. But here's the thing. Ignoring the Inquisitor customization for a moment over there. So let's just leave, like, accept the changes, all that. It's weird that you can customize that you can load the save with a character customization of your Rook, but not with your Inquisitor. So, yeah, that's not particularly great necessarily, because it means you have to start over with that. And you have your voice and all that kind of stuff.
It's good to see you again.
Right? But here's the thing about that. So that's, you finalize how your Inquisitor looks, but here's the thing. Yes. But here's the thing about that. Here are the choices that you can load up in Dragon Age of Veilguard from all the decisions that we had in Origins, Dragon Age 2, Dragon Age Inquisition. Your romance choice. Obviously, some things are locked based on what options were available back then. So, I romanced Josephine, for instance. The decision of whether or not the Inquisition was disbanded or it was made the honor guard of the Divine. Here's my issue with that. Who is the Divine? Like, that's the thing. Like, are any of those characters going to be part of it? And if they are, because we did see Cassandra and Leliana, both of which are options for the Divine. And I believe it's a position for life, unless they abdicate, which, yeah, considering everything that's gone with the Chantry over the last years would be questionable. But here's the problem with that, with regards to the Divine. You have 3 different choices, all of which do lead the Chantry in a very different way. And then you have variations on those choices. Vivian being a mage divine is pretty significant. Leliana with her spycraft, or Cassandra with the focus on the Seekers. And it is a very, very different dynamic with each of them. And on top of that, you have extra variation depending on your interactions with these characters, if you're close to these characters, if you hardened Leliana or not. Those things mattered. And also the quote-unquote power of the Inquisition. So there were a lot of things that did matter with just the divine choice. In fact, it's one of the most significant choices. I always had the feeling with Trespasser that they were going to ignore a lot of our decisions, because Trespasser absolutely fucking ignored a lot of the decisions of Inquisition. And this just solidified it. So it doesn't matter who is divine. It just matter whether or not the Inquisition was preserved. Now, and look, the title Divine Victoria, that was very clear, right? Even from the epilogue before Trespasser came out, like, it was just gonna... that's the thing that's really annoying. Bioware really left itself a lot of options, like with all the divines, regardless of who becomes divine, they're all called Divine Victoria. So they could have easily had this choice and implemented, because maybe there's some dialogue that gets changed. It's these tiny details that do matter, and it's pretty telling about the game. And then your romance is more important than the divine choice. And then it's like, did you vow to stop Solus, or did you vow to save him from himself? This is what I chose. And that's it. There are no other decisions that have any weight whatsoever from any of the Dragon Age games. Let's talk about certain things that should matter beyond the divine choice. Who's the Emperor or Empress of Orlais, for instance? That's just a particular example. That is actually a very substantial situation. What happened to the Grey Wardens in Orlais? Did they get sent to Wipes Out, or did they get... or did they stay in the south? That is important. Also, one of the plot tools that they use, like, the Inquisitor is not going to be, it's not going to be a playable character. Is like, he lost his arm. Well, if you've made a mechanical arm of some description for the Inquisitor, then that excuse goes out the window, by the way. Thank you, Bioware, really. It's just like, that just feels like they're not just ignoring everything. It feels like they're just spitting in my face with this kind of stuff. It's like, we made the perfect excuse in Dragon Age Inquisition as to why you couldn't play the Inquisitor next Dragon Age game. And then we're gonna flat out ignore that excuse, if I seriously see the Inquisitor moving this thing, there is no fucking reason. In fact, even with Hawk, there was never any reason. Some people will defend this. I always found this the weakest part of Dragon Age as a series. You look at Witcher, you look at Mass Effect, they are strong because there is consistency of character from game to game. And with Shepard in particular, you can customize that Shepard yourself. So this argument, like, it made sense from the Warden to Hawk, though I think they should have just voiced the Warden, really. Like, I believe that. Like, the decisions that, like, if Bioware is in all of the crap, it's because they've landed themselves there. And neither the original developers or the current developers have ever really made the right decisions. Now, I'm not going to pronounce myself on whether or not Veilguard is a good game in isolation, or whether or not it's quote-unquote a good Dragon Age game. Every Dragon Age game has abandoned the things that the previous one did. Hawk was just a footnote in 2. The Warden is a footnote in 3, sorry. The Warden is a footnote in 2 from Origins. That's been the case. So this argument that some people have that, it's not a Dragon Age game because of X, that is not true. What I do find irritating is, like, you can import the save from Dragon Age Awakening into Dragon Age 2, and it wasn't substantial. A quest here, a character there, a dialogue there, but it did make it feel that not only was the previous experience more meaningful, but the current experience was more meaningful, because it felt like you were going through something that other people were not, as opposed to everyone having the same experience. That is a strength. This is why these kind of things matter. And Bioware knew this. They knew it with Inquisition. They knew it with Mass Effect. You can argue how well they handled that in Mass Effect 3, but the amount of effort they put into it with characters, with dialogues, with various things is significant. So if this game is mediocre or, people are pissed off about it, this is why. But let's consider something else beyond the divine. What should matter from Inquisition? Forget Origins, forget 2. Well, who did you leave in the Fate? Because the survivor should be going to Weishaupt, which, based on what I know, we will visit in Veilguard. So it's either Hawk, Stroud, Alistair, or Loghain. And all of them could have had the same role. Like, whatever role the one would have had in Veilguard, the other one could have had. But while it might not seem significant, like talking with Alistair versus Stroud versus Loghain, seeing those kind of, like, variations of conversation between them and Morgan, especially if Morgan had a son and whose son that was, all of those have impact. It makes the experience more impactful. Just worth pointing that out. Besides, it's like kind of questionable when you don't have that decision being able to be made because of what happened to the Grey Wardens of Orlais. So that is something that is very, very substantial. And the fact that they don't have it and they have the freaking last conversation with Solus is enraging. I understand that the Dragon Age Keep tool was very difficult to make. I get that. I understand not every decision has importance. I understand that. I understand the game developer perspective. But this is basically like, we don't give a damn what the previous fans experienced. We don't care about the choices. We don't care about what happened in the series beforehand. This is how we are going to do it. I also want to finish with this. Based on everything I've seen, the reviews, especially a very popular review right now, it's like of a person who doesn't recommend it. One of the things I would say about Dragon Age the Veilguard, just my before I start playing it properly, and this might change, likely will, but my perspective is this. It really seems like Mass Effect Andromeda. And when I say that, people on a very superficial level, when they think of Mass Effect Andromeda, they'll think of like, my face is tired. Let me tell you this as bluntly as possible. The problem of Mass Effect Andromeda was not that, or the facial animations initially in the game. The problem of Mass Effect Andromeda is that the story wasn't good. A lot of the decisions you made felt cheap, meaningless. The interactions between characters felt cheap and meaningless. And you look at the Renegade or some of the more interesting decisions in previous games, there were always bad decisions you could make. There were decisions that would create conflict and all that kind of stuff. There were bad decisions. Now, I can understand perhaps the perspective of like, Bioware doesn't necessarily want, piss people off or something like that, right? Or they don't want a spicy decision because they know this is true. I can tell you this for a fact. We have the statistics on this. I remember watching it. most people in Mass Effect play Paragon. Like, I've known so many people in Mass Effect, like people who complain like the Paragon Renegade meter got removed. Considering the fact that most people would pick pure Paragon or pure Renegade, which is not really the most interesting way to play from my perspective. Spice it up. Go with a mix. Go with decisions that are interesting and all that. I find that a great decision from Bioware to remove that. What they replace it with, that's very questionable. But here's the problem. You can understand the argument of a developer saying basically that, well, most people only pick the good guy choices, the goody two-shoes choices. But even those people, and I've known a lot of these people, I was active on the Bioware social network when that still existed. In fact, that's the reason I became a YouTuber. People recommended me a playthrough of Dragon Age Origins. I decided, you know what, I can do this better. Here I am, over a decade later, basically, with that situation. Actually, more than a decade, it's getting to a decade and a half soon enough. But here I am, because of those kind of things. So, to me, this series matters. And I liked Inquisition. I don't like 2, but I liked Inquisition. I liked Awakening. I think Awakening is the best story in the series. Yeah, I went there. It's certainly the most impactful from, having like an aspect of having a villain that's actually far more interesting. And I'm not talking about the mother. I'm talking about the architect who is actually responsible for everything there. But point is, even if people are playing the goody two-shoes, that doesn't mean they don't appreciate the fact that other choices exist. Even if they're always picking the safe, secure, nice guy option, you do appreciate the fact that other options do exist. That is a fact. So if what certain reviewers have pointed out is the case, if that's true, then Bioware just took the wrong lessons, and EA took the wrong lessons. That's all I had to say. Costin, signing.